Hello everyone, this is Gage from Gondorian Smith, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys another Third Age Reforged on a multiplayer battle replay. This one is a 2 versus 2, a good versus evil battle on the Grassy Plains map, I believe, although it could be something else. This one was sent to me by a Leister who is commanding the army of Linden. It could also be Lister. I do apologize if I got that wrong. But anyway, this is a nice good versus evil. It's also a cool battle because I think a few people did ask for more dwarves and elves combos. So that is what this battle actually is. We've got the Realm of Linden and the Dwarves of Erebor teaming up against the army, teaming up against an army from Umbar and an army from Khand. So without any further ado, we will go ahead and go into the army compositions, beginning with Linden. So he's got a couple units of the Mithlond pikemen, basically just the upgraded variant, well, just the better version of the Forlondon pikemen. However, you can only bring 2 of them before the cost increases. He's got 1 unit of the Noldorn Guard, who are basically one of the only Linden high armor and high defense. Well, not really high defense, but more just their only high armored units. You can actually bring 2 of them before the price increase. However, they are very expensive, something around like 975 florins each. So he's actually only got 2 units of the Harlandon infantry, which is just like the standard sword and shield infantry unit. He's got 1 unit of the Noldorn Blade Masters, which is a like 1300 florin unit shock infantry unit. Of course, going to be very good in melee against some low and mid tier stuff. However, they are obviously very weak to missile fires. However, their 2 hit points should protect them at least a little bit from incoming missile fire. He also has 2 units of the standard Mithlond Sword Masters, kind of like the Hiri Lang or the Eldorn Swordsman, just kind of like that type of a unit. He also got 1 unit of the Wardens of Elastirion, a very expensive but very elite body-piercing ranger unit. These guys are actually very much more expensive than most of the other rangers. This unit, I believe, costs like 1,000 florins, and you can only bring 1 before the cost increase. Back here you can see his 2nd unit of Harlandon infantry. In addition to this, he's got, it looks like, 1 unit of Forlondon archers, and 2 units of the Harlandon Guard. The Forlondon archers are, of course, just a kind of a lower tier archer unit. However, the Forlondon Guard are very good. You can only bring 2 of them before the price increase, but because of that, they are a very good archer unit. They actually have a nice shield value, and they actually pull out a spear and shield in melee, which makes them very hard to get run down by enemy cavalry. I think to round off his army, he has got 1 unit of the Noldorn Horse Lords, which is, of course, the elite bodyguard cavalry unit that Linden can bring. You can see there's Círdan right there, the general. And over here you can see his last 2 units, which are 2 units of the Wardens of Harlandon, which is just a force archer unit. And once they are all out of ammo, they actually do pull out lances and can get some really nice AP charges. However, I do think they are going to be losing the AP charge and turning into basically cavalry instead. I could be wrong about that. We will now go over to his ally, who is Odysseus had a happy dog commanding the Dwarves of Erebor. So Odysseus only has 2 units of cavalry, which is kind of unsurprising. Obviously, one of the dwarves' main weaknesses in a pitch battle is definitely going to be their lack of cavalry. So he does have 1 unit of Ironfoot Wargoths, who are actually a very expensive lancer unit that I think are like 1,000 florins each. You can bring only 2 of them before price increases. He's also got 1 unit of the mercenary cavalry, who, being supported by the Ironfoot Wargoths, should do quite well against other cavalry. He's got a couple units of the Axe Guard of Erebor, and going up against the heavily armored units of Umbar, they should do quite well with their AP. He's got a couple units of Ironfoot Spears, 4 units of Ironfoot Warriors backing up 3 units of Ironfoot Halberds, and 1 unit of Ironfoot Pikes as well, somewhere around here right there. He also has 1 unit of the Ironfoot Axe Throwers, 1 unit of the Highborns of Erebor, which is where his general is, I believe, as you can see Dane right there. And his last units are 3 units of Ironfoot Crossbows, who are, of course, a very, very good crossbow unit. However, because they are crossbows, they do have very limited range. However, they do have really nice armor and shield values to compensate for that. But that is going to pretty much do it for the good army, so we can now go over here to the 2 evil armies. And honestly, I haven't seen the end of this replay. All he told me is that it ended very, very closely. I think it's going to be very difficult for Odysseus and Leister, just because the 2 players they are going up against are none other than Sin of the Dark Cloud and Crimson Behelit. Sin of the Dark Cloud is obviously one of the lead developers of Reforged, and Crimson Behelit is another of the developers for Reforged. So some very, very experienced players going up against the Dwarves and Elves here. So his front line of archers consists of a couple units of Abrazenim Nardubalib, who are just a pretty nice archer unit. They do have some really nice shield values and armor values, so they can kind of just outlast their opponent. However, against crossbows, they're not going to be able to outlast. Their armor won't be able to protect them very much. However, they do, of course, have the obvious range advantage. So as long as Sin can keep the archers away from the crossbows, he should be able to skirmish them down pretty quickly. In addition to this, he's got a couple units of Beligir archers here. Just the lower tier version of the Nardubalib, really. They do actually have a shield value as well, I think, but not as good stats, of course. Back here, he's got 2 units of Beligir halberds, I think, on either flank, yes, that is correct. And for his front line, he's got 2 or 3 units of the Corsair pikemen, being backed up by 3, or maybe even 4 units, actually, of the Castamers Chosen, who are a very elite sword and shield infantry unit, kind of similar to units like the Imladris Guardians or maybe Lorien Blades. We've got like 11 attack and 28 defense, however they are very expensive. But you can actually bring 4 of them before the price increase, and this is of course going to be a very smart move, pairing the pikes with the Castamers Chosen, because the main weakness of these Corsair pikemen is their very low armor. I think they only have like 2 armor, so they can get skirmished down very, very quickly, which is of course why he has them being backed up by some Castamers Chosen who have some very nice shield and armor values. Back here he's got 2 units of the standard Corsairs, just like a 200 flooring kind of fodder unit. However, they are very useful, I've found, especially against other low tier units, just because they do actually have dual swords, or no, they don't have dual swords, but they actually are quite good in melee against other low tiers. However, they don't have very much armor, they don't have very much armor, and they obviously do not have any shields, so they can't get skirmished down very quickly. For his cavalry, he has got 1 unit of the mounted Numenor Shield Guard, which is of course a very nice Lancer Cav. There are 1,000 florins, and you can only bring 1 for the price increase, and they have got the very nice Umbar look to them. That being mostly the red. Over here he's got his generals unit, I believe, yes, of the Warlords of Umbar, which is basically just the Knights of Inuminas kind of gone wrong. He's also got 1 unit of his own mercenary cavalry over here as well. And his cavalry will probably be able to beat the Dwarven cavalry, just because the Dwarves only have 2 units of cavalry. But we've actually got 4 units of Corsairs, because he's got 2 more back here. It also probably wouldn't be too surprising if he actually had a couple hidden units of Castamir's Rangers, which is a body-piercing ranger unit that the Umbar players can field. You can actually bring 2 of them before the price increase, and they are marginally cheaper than something like the Wardens of Elastirion. Anyway, that pretty much does it for his army, though, so we can now go over here to Crimson Behelit, who is playing as Khand. He's got a couple units of the Nomadic Raiders. He's also got 1 unit of the Variag Bowmen and 1 unit of the Nomadic Infantry, which, despite having the name Infantry, they actually are a bow unit who have a very nice shield value, and actually who actually are not very bad in melee either. For his main infantry, he's actually got 3 or 4 units of the Nurad Footmen backing up 3 or 4 units of the Nurad Halberds. Now, the Halberds are going to be very effective. Well, while their AP isn't going to be very well used against Linden, just the range that these Halberds will be able to bring is going to be very helpful, especially because the Nurad Footmen are not going to have a very good time pretty much facing down anything of Linden's, just because they are technically, I believe, a mace and shield unit. They have very low scale, however they are AP, but the AP is not going to be very well used against most of the Linden roster, so we'll just have to see how that fight does in fact go down. So for his cavalry, obviously playing as Khand, he's going to have he's got 1 unit of the Variag Cataphracts, which is of course a very high tier knight unit. That is where his general, you can see him sitting right there. He's also got 1 unit of the Brotherhood of the Lance, not quite as good as the last patch, but still very, very deadly off the charge. They do have way lower armor values though, so they can get skirmished on pretty quickly. He's also got 1 unit of the Nurad Windblades, who look really nice with their dual swords and with the cool banner on some of their backs. These guys are very, very quick, and they have multiple hit points, which prevents them from getting skirmished down super quickly. He's also got 1 unit of the Nomadic Scouts, which might actually be a mounted axe throwing unit. I could be incorrect about that, but I think that might be the case. For his horse archers, he has got 1 unit of the Nerniag horse archers, as well as 1 unit of the Variag horse archers and 1 unit of the Brotherhood of the Bow. In addition to all this, I think he has 1 unit of the Nomadic Marauders, who, at least last time I played as Khand, were actually an axe throwing unit in addition to being a kind of shock infantry unit. So without any further ado, we can go ahead and start the battle off. Oop, did not want it 2 times. See that Crimson is going to be moving forward with his archers pretty quickly, as well as obviously his cavalry, because he obviously definitely has the advantage in terms of numbers for cavalry. the Archers of Sin are really going to prove troublesome for the Dwarves, because while the Dwarves do have very good armor, they just don't have the range to compensate, or to try to really be a threat against the Umbar Archers. You see these poor nomadic raiders, the Khandish Archers, really not having nearly as good range as the Linden Archers, are already taking quite a few losses. You can actually see over here that the Horse Archers of both Linden and Khand are in a full fight. Looks like the just pure amount of numbers of the Khandish Horse Archers are really doing work against these Linden Horse Archers. It also does not help the Linden Horse Archers that they are standing still and not in loose formation, unlike Crimson Behelit's Horse Archers. However, for the most part, most of Crimson's Horse Archers are of a much lower tier, with the exception of the Brotherhood of the Bow, so they are going to take quite a lot of losses. You can actually see over here as well that the Iron Crossbows are moving forward. They do not want to just keep getting shot as they are getting getting shot right now. Sorry. Okay, yeah, looks like they are going to load up a first volley here. Probably going to be targeting these Beligir Archers, who are going to really take a lot of losses from that. Oof. Okay, that's not going to be very good for the Beligir Archers. Actually didn't take out quite as many as I thought would have been taken out. And yeah, the Ironfoot Crossbowmen do have very good armor and nice shield values. However, just the fact that the Beligir Archers, well, just the Umbar Archers in general, have so much better range, it is going to be a very tough fight for these Ironfoot Crossbowmen to win. Also, there are way more Umbar Archers than there are Dwarven Crossbows. So you can see quite a few of the Dwarven Crossbows already lying dead on the ground. See the Ironfoot Warlords kind of creeping around there. Looks like, oh yeah, so this is really a very, very smart move here by Darkcloud. Really unsurprising considering how long he has been playing, but he's actually going to be pushing forward with, looks like, all 4 units of his Corsairs, which is not only going to force these Ironfoot Crossbowmen to retreat, but it is also going to force these Dwarven infantry to try to come forward and stop the advance of these Corsairs. All the while, his own archers are still continuously firing at these Ironfoot Crossbowmen, who are really starting to take losses. Looks like his Corsairs might be able to get an okay charge. Ooh, actually making those Ironfoot Crossbowmen think about routing. But yeah, so just like that, Sin was able to make the crossbows stop firing and take very little losses in return, and all the while he was being able to continuously fire down at these Ironfoot Crossbowmen with his own archers. But we can go over here to the Horse Archer fight that is still going on. Ooh, it actually looks like the Brotherhood of the Bow might have tried to charge. Oh, no. Wardens of Harlan down to 23 and 28. But just the overall quality of the Elven Horse Archers looks like it might be kind of turning things back in favor of the Elves, especially with the advance of these Noldor Horse Lords, who if they are able to get a good charge off here, will be able to just absolutely shatter this unit of Variag Horse Archers. Looks like they did take a few losses, or a pretty nice volley from some of the Horse Archers. But yeah, that charge right there actually might rout that unit of Variag Horse Archers. Looks like they might be able to hold on. But yeah, so definitely a very nice game of cat and mouse over there with the cavalry. However, over here, you can see that the cavalry of the Erebor player is really not doing too well. Just the amount of pretty high tier cavalry that Sin has, as well as the archer support, is really proving difficult for Odysseus to deal with. You can see, though, that he actually is advancing with most of his infantry. He is going to go pretty much straight into the fight against these Castamir's Chosen and Corsair Pikemen. Sin is obviously going to retreat his archers so they can continuously fire. Looks like a lot of the Dwarven crossbows have been taken out. There's only 79 there and 70 here. But oh, it's actually, I think that's because, yeah, in the back lines with the advance of the Dwarven infantry, these crossbows are kind of being left out, and they're actually being charged down by a lot of the Khandish cavalry that's come over to support his ally. So really not looking too great for the dwarves. However, oh, it actually looks like a lot of Crimson's standard foot archers have been taken out as well. But anyway, ooh, looks like actually some of these Ibrizan are getting caught out by a couple units of these Iron warriors. Not going to be very good for them. They are going to be Looks like there's some Axe Guard Variable trying to go on a flanking mission here, and over there, looks like Sin has been able to completely surround the Dwarven Cavalry. So there goes the Mercenary Cav, and the Iron Warlords are thinking about revving. So nice play here by Sin, using the Warlords and his own Mercenary Cavalry to surround the Dwarven Cavalry, and the Warlords of Umbar, being a very high tier unit, are going to be able to do a very good job as long as they are supported. Yeah, it looks like these Axe Guard Variable are trying to go far around to the flank right here to try to go around, but in the front line you can see the fight is beginning. Ironfoot Pike's going to do pretty good against the Castamar's Chosen and Corsair Pikemen. Spears will do okay as long as they decide to rush through and sheer wall rather than just get poked to death, otherwise they will lose. Ironfoot Warriors looks like they are actually just trying to push through. Surprisingly, the Castamar's Chosen are actually really having a very difficult time against the Dwarf Infantry, which is pretty surprising, at least in the case of the Ironfoot Warriors, because the Ironfoot Warriors aren't a great unit. I think they have like, well, I mean, no, actually they are actually a very good unit. Their biggest weaknesses, like most of the Dwarf Warriors, I can see some of that stand up at 97. Actually, it's been driving there for a second. The archers, look at their probably target the Axe Guard Variable that is running right here. Ooh, Brotherhood of the Lance actually taken out by the Axe Guard Variable. And it looks like Odysseus is moving forward with the rest of his infantry as well. Unfortunately for Sin, it looks like his own stakes might prevent him from rear charging a ton of the Dwarven infantry, but he probably will be able to get around nevertheless. You can see the Dwarves really doing a nice job pushing through here. Surprisingly, the AP Delegator Halberds having a very difficult time here against the Ironfoot Warriors. Looks like these halberds just really aren't being able to get into a nice position, so they're just really getting cut down. Looks like they're actually going to get rear charged by some Axe Guard Variable, and at the same time, these Warlords are going to charge straight into these Ironfoot Warriors, who are just going to get absolutely flattened. They actually did take a number of losses, not a ton. Yeah, the halberds really having a difficult time here. Oh, and the Axe Guard Variable are shaken. They're getting surrounded and charged by cavalry there. They in fact rout here. In addition to all that, they actually are also getting shot. They're wavering. Ooh. With the charge of these Warlords and Corsairs, yep, they're going to rout, so that is a very unfortunate loss for Odysseus. But in the main line, you can see that he's just absolutely crushed, has just absolutely crushed through his Iron Spears and Iron Warriors, pushing through in shield wall. Oh, he actually has a couple units of Blackguards, or at least one unit of Blackguards, which is of course a very, very good javelin unit, going to get a lot of kills against the Dwarves, especially if they're blocked up. You can see that he's actually being forced to commit some of his Delegator archers to stop the advance of these Ironfoot Spears through his front line. The Ironfoot Axe Throwers are also back here throwing their axes wherever possible, but we should take a quick look over here at what's going on. I think it looks like most of the cavalry most of the horse archers of both Crimson and Lister have been taken out. Well, yeah, it looks like there's pretty much no cavalry left of Lindon in general. They might still have the generals unit though. Halberds kind of struggling though here against the Pikes and the Castamar's Chosen. Ooh, and yeah, it's looking a little bit closer, just because while the Dwarves were able to push through initially, they are kind of getting stopped right now. Corsair Blackguards trying to throw their javelins, let's say, but they might have been caught in melee actually. Yeah, the front line of Sin of the Dark Cloud really starting to struggle here. Oh, here's the... Oh no, actually, what Lister has sent over some of his own cavalry to help out against the Umbar cavalry, which is of course very smart. However, there are some very cataphracts on their way, going to probably rear charge string these Ironfoot halberds, who, if they're able to turn around, will be able to do a good amount of damage. And it looks like they are in fact going to be able to turn around. However,
only half the enemy force remains.
Crimson is going to think better of that charge over there, as well as Sin. Oh, but they're instead going to go straight to these Ironfoot Axe Throwers, which is a very important unit of Odysseus, so it's going to be very important if he does lose this pretty much entire unit. Oh, you can see just a devastating charge right there. Ooh. Yeah, so far Sin was really struggling. His infantry was just not able to hold for as long as he wanted. However, on this flank, he is starting to pull things back around, especially with the support of his Warlords and He's carefully. Oh yeah, looks like a couple of the cataphracts got killed by the stakes there. Ooh, actually, right here in the center, where the Dwarves had initially been holding on pretty strong, they actually are falling pretty quickly. Ooh, and the Corsair Blackguards tossing their javelins. Looks like maybe into the Highborn with Airbow possibly. Not going to be very good for them at all. Lyndon and Khand are kind of keeping each other in their places because Lyndon can't really come to the aid of the dwarves without getting surrounded by Khand, and Khand can't come to the aid of Umbar without being surrounded by Lyndon, so it's kind of a game of cat and mouse so far. Looks like the dwarves are kind of pushing out a little too far almost. However, this flanking unit of Ironfoot warriors is doing a nice job of silencing these closer blackguards, at least for the time, which is definitely going to be something that he needs because the blackguards are so wreaking havoc amongst all our team. So he's actually trying to pull back some pikes to protect his black lines from the warlords and from the Variag cataphracts, but these poor Ironfoot axe throwers are just taking so many losses. Over here, though, again, on this left flank, Sin is starting to struggle in the infantry fight, but over here, there's pretty much no dwarves remaining. So it is looking very close so far. Blackguards trying to go around a different way so they can actually begin throwing their javelins yet again. Oof, yeah, very close fight so far. We can take a look over here, I guess, to see what's going on. Looks like Lyndon is still kind of just biding his time after taking out the horse archers of Khand. It looks like he's not going to do much more, at least for the time, but he does have to be careful because if the dwarves are taken out, and if Sin still has a lot of units remaining, he will find himself getting double teamed. It's going to be very difficult for him to get out of, but right now it's still looking very even between the dwarves. I think really what's keeping it even here is definitely the cavalry of both Crimson and Sin of the Dark Cloud. Warlord's going to charge straight into Ironfoot spears. Had the spears maybe been able to turn around in time to countercharge, the warlords might have taken a few more losses. Even still, they did take a number of losses, but yeah, it looks like the dwarves have completely beaten this side of the Umbar infantry and are moving now over to the other side. Ironfoot pikes. Oh no, the highborns. These highborns going to get real shot. And there goes Dane, taken out. That is not going to be good at all because the dwarves of Erebor, especially, really do not have very good morale. So with the loss of the general there, he may find himself in a very bad position very quickly. You can see these 90 Ironfoot halberds actually shaken already, and they're not even in a fight. Blackguard still throwing the javelin around. Ooh, spears. Yeah, it looks like Crimson is going to think better of charging those spears, which is of course very smart. Belliger halberds, now being in actual position, they will be able to do a very much better job against the other dwarven infantry, just because they are of course a big halberd unit. There's still a few scattered remnants of crossbows, so they're trying to silence some of these, or stop some of these flanking units of Umbar infantry that was just going down the line. And I think a lot of damage. Yeah, 61 Ironfoot spears, thinking about routing because of the javelins and the charges from these units. Ooh, not looking too good for these dwarves right now. But again, just the pure skill of the, well not really skill, but just power of the dwarven infantry is really keeping it in this fight. Looks like the Noldorn horse lords are on their way to attempt to help out the dwarves. He's definitely going to be very good. He looks like he's going to be recharged his horse lords. But he's definitely going to want to try to silence something like the Belliger archers, or even like the Blackguards would be a good target to use. Warlords rear charging those highborns of Erebor who are just getting the halberds. Ironfoot spears trying to attack the halberds from behind, but again constantly getting charged by the Variag cataphracts. Looks like Blackguard's probably out of ammo by now, or at least getting close to being out of ammo. Ooh, yeah, Warlords flattening those remaining crossbowmen. Oh, nomadic marauders actually being brought over here as well as some nomadic scouts to scare away those Noldorn horse lords who is thinking they might actually get staked there. Oh, yep. With the loss of the general and the constant cycle charges from the knight unit, the Ironfoot pikes are going to break. So probably the dwarves may end up losing this fight, but again, Odysseus definitely did a very good job. If it weren't for maybe the support of Crimson, he probably would have been able to pull this off as a unit. The nomadic scouts, it looks like they are in fact a mounted axe throwing unit, because they do seem to be firing their missiles now. Oof, but yeah, 57 to 57, super close fight so far. So While it looks like Umbar is going to be able to pull this one out, it was not without very, very great losses. But now, Lyndon is going to find himself getting double teamed very shortly here. You can see he's actually moved forward with some of his archers actually. Ooh, nomadic scouts. Looks like Crimson accidentally lost a little bit of micro here. And oh, he lost so many right there on those stakes. That's just, oh, so unfortunate. And now they're getting shot by archers, so ooh, a little bit of a micro mistake there, unfortunately for Crimson. And I think that actually means that that's pretty much it for his cavalry besides the Nerd Windblades, who haven't fought, looks like, and the 7 Variag Cataphracts. And of course his Windblade Excellence. So, on the whole, there's really not a lot of cavalry left on the field. Lyndon has even less than the 2 Evil Armies, surprisingly enough. Then again, I think he only brought 3 units to begin with anyway, so he should be okay. Oh, there's actually Odysseus had retreated a unit of his crossbows back to his allies' line, so he actually does have 62 crossbowmen remaining. And they should do quite well against a lot of the remaining units, especially they should do good at targeting down something like the Murad Windblades or Cataphracts. And you can see now that Khand is moving forward with a lot of his infantry and foot archers. Moving forward first with his archers, of course, and then with his shielded infantry, followed up by some halberds. It's always definitely best to move in first with shielded heavy infantry, and then follow up with pikes or halberds. If you just try to charge first with your halberds and pikes, they will take a lot of losses, especially from skirmish fire. Which is why I always want to give something a little bit more armor and definitely a shield in the front line before you advance your pikes or halberds to the front line. Which is why he does, of course, have this very nice setup here. So yeah, Variag Bowmen going to, well, all the foot archers really of Khand going to continuously fire. They are targeting the crossbows, interestingly enough. Yeah, it's going to be very... Oh, looks like there's actually still a few Wardens of Harlandon over there getting cut down by some Windblades. But with the Windblades actually being contained, at least for the moment, it is going to free up, yes, it is going to free up these very swift Noldorn Horse Lords to be able to charge straight into these nomadic raiders. So it's going to take a lot of losses right here. Oh, the AP charge of a knight unit like that, oh, going to be terrible, terrible for those archers. However, the Windblades coming in, but it looks like he's not going to, in fact, go after them. Oh, maybe. The Noldorn Horse Lords are, of course, very swift themselves, so they may be able to get out of here in time. Looks like, oh, the Windblades are going to find themselves in the range of the Lyndon archers. Oh, they're actually going to go straight into these Harlandon Guard, which is going to be a very interesting fight. Oh! Okay, with the support of the Horse Lords, the Harlandon Guard will be able to take out the Windblades, so Crimson Behela is, of course, going to instantly take his cavalry unit out of there, which is very good because the Harlandon Guard are, of course, a spear infantry unit once they are out of ammo or engaged in melee. Looks like the remnants of Sin's forces are starting to move forward as well. He's got some archers remaining, very little infantry, and he still has his 10 Warlords of Umbar, and his General Caspian is still alive as well. So it looks like there's now going to be a little bit of a cat and mouse type game, which is unsurprising considering the fact that Leicester is going to kind of find himself double teamed pretty shortly here. His archers really starting to struggle here. Generally, it's always good, of course, to have your archers in loose formation, but they generally will take less losses if you put them in a very, very thin line like Crimson is doing right now and like Sin had done earlier. Just because when they're in rows of 2 like this instead of like 4, most of the arrows that like will go overhead, they won't actually hit anybody, they'll just hit the ground instead, which is why you are seeing the Elven archers actually take a lot more losses than the Khandish archers, which would in other situations be very surprising. Looks like this unit of Harlandon Guard is actually out of ammo, unfortunately, but they're going to be able to soak up a little bit more arrow fire before Crimson realizes that they are no longer a threat. He still does have a unit of Harlandon archers and 1 unit of Harlandon Guard. Ooh, but unfortunately for Lister, I think I've said it different every single time, but unfortunately for the Lyndon player, I'll just say that. As soon as his archers are no longer a threat to Khand, the first thing that he's going to target are these Mithlond pikemen, who are of course very lightly armored. Looks like he again tried to charge into these Nomadic Raiders, taking out a few of them, and taking out a few of the Nerd Windblades as well, but taking a few losses in return for that. So yeah, Crimson getting pretty low in terms of cavalry numbers, but he still does have a ton of infantry left over, as well as a decent amount of foot archers. Looks like he's still got all 4 of his units, 1 down to 50, or 40, but still should do okay. Iron crossbowmen sitting there as well. The Nomadic Raiders getting very, very close to the Elven front line here. The Harlandon Guard still taking arrow fire here. I mean, it does kind of suck that he's losing this whole unit, but it's fine because every arrow spent on these shielded Harlandon Guard is an arrow not being fired at these unshielded Niflung pikemen. Oh, Noldorn Horse Lords. Oh, gonna try to charge into these Nomadic Raiders, and they're going to do it, but they did take a pretty good volley right there, taking out 3 of the Horse Lords. Because just this late in game, the Horse Lords are of course going to be pretty low in terms of like hit point defense. So that is why they are taking a lot more losses to the archers than previously. I think I can go ahead and speed it up a little bit for now, though. Ooh, Noldorn Blade Master is actually getting targeted now. That's a very good target because while they do have hit points, they are of course unshielded, so they're going to take a lot of. Well, they're going to take a lot of damage. Maybe not losses, at least not the beginning, but they're going to take a lot of damage nonetheless. Because it looks like they're getting targeted by all 4 units. So yeah, he did notice now, but unfortunately, a lot of his Noldorn Blade Masters did get quite heavily damaged. Ooh. Okay, yeah, his Wardens of Elas Tyrion are actually still hitting, which is going to be very, very good for him. Looks like he has lost a couple, but that was just by coincidence. But his Wardens of Elas Tyrion are going to be very, very key in taking out units like the Halberds or even the Footmen, especially when Khand blobs up, just because of the body-piercing arrows being so very strong. I have a siege, pretty interesting siege battle as a 2 versus 3 coming up if you guys would like to see that. I think I might upload. It wasn't incredibly close. I think it was within like 13%, but it was still a pretty fun battle nevertheless, and it had a lot of good artillery hits and arrow volleys and stuff like that. But anyway. So the skirmish fight's still going on between Khand and Lyndon. Ooh, actually looks like Khand is going to be moving forward with a lot of his infantry now, going ever closer. Especially considering the fact that most of Lyndon's arrows have been already fired. It's like Sin of the Dark Cloud is also moving forward as well. Ooh, yeah, these. Oh, he's only got 6 units here. I thought there were 8, but no, it's 6 units here. These 6 units are going to be very deadly. Well, actually, no, I take it back. They would be deadly against an army like the Dwarves or Gondor, just any faction that relies on its heavy armor, but Lyndon, who doesn't rely on their armor too much, probably won't suffer too much from units like the Nerd Footmen who rely on their AP. So the very skillful units over here of Lyndon should do quite well, with the exception maybe of these Noldorn Guard, who are heavy armored and actually being targeted right now. So the Noldorn Guard probably would take quite a lot of losses to the AP units here. Ooh, it's actually looking like Khand is trying to wrap all the way around the flank here of Lyndon, which is going to be a good idea because it's going to force Lyndon to kind of split his forces to have most of his force obviously trying to fend off Khand, but he is going to have to leave at least some units back here to try to deal with what remains of Umbar. Probably what I would do if I was Leicester, I'd probably send like 2 or 3 units over here just right away to try to just swiftly deal with Umbar, so then you could just totally focus on Khand. But, oh yeah, these poor Fulham pikemen getting shot right now, so very unfortunate to be in now. But it actually does look like Khand may, in fact, be looking for a fight here. 4-1 Archer is going to try to hold the line, maybe. Yeah, so it does look like the infantry fight between Khand and Lyndon is finally going to go underway. Obviously, going first is going to be the Nerd Footmen. Oof. And here begins the bloodfest here. Halberds are going to try to go around the flank, but the Wardens of Elas Tyrion have now come out of hiding and are going to be targeting the blobbed up forces and these halberds in particular. Ooh, the body piercing. Oh, just gonna do a huge amount of damage to those nerd halberds, especially if they do get blocked up. Oh yeah, these poor pikemen, man. These poor pikemen just got shot to death before they were even able to do anything at all. But it actually does in fact look like Lyndon is going to try to do just what I said a little bit earlier, and he's going to send forward both units of his Mithlond Swordmasters against everything that remains of Umbar. And this would probably be a pretty close fight, but with the Warlords of Umbar here, Lyndon may find themselves in a very bad position, especially with the halberds that are holding back the Swordmasters. Ooh, but over here, the Elves of Lyndon are finding themselves very much outnumbered by the Variags of Khand. Oh, yeah, you can see his lines just getting kind of folded already here. Wardens of Elves, of course, going to be constantly firing, but it's just going to be a matter of if they're going to be able to fire it long enough and do enough damage. He still also has his Noldorn Blade Masters back here, though, as well. So if he can send them over to stop some of these flanking forces, like maybe here against the Nerd Footmen or even behind these halberds, should be quite well. Ooh. And with the Umbar General going down there, it looks like the Umbar forces may end up being defeated. Only three Warlords of Umbar left. There's the Iron for Crossbowmen here. Looks like they are out of ammo. Oh, yeah, the Mithlond Swordmasters in a very tough fight here against Umbar. These halberds really doing a good job at holding back these Mithlond Swordmasters and just poking the, which is why Odysseus does have, or is sending his crossbowmen around to try to help out Lyndon. The Blackguards are going to go back there to try to stop that. And there goes the Khandish general, if you did not notice there. Ooh, and the Nomadic Marauders going to throw their axes straight into these pikemen. Looks like, ooh, yeah, it's going to be very deadly. But the skill, the just overall skill of the Elves of Lyndon is really making this fight pretty close. However, right here in the center, you can see these Harlan infantry really getting beaten back very quickly. Noldorn Blade Masters are flanking around these Nerd halberds who are actually shaken. Wardens of Elstirion still constantly going to be firing into the blobbed up forces, hopefully right here, and maybe here as well. And looks like they're definitely targeting these Nerd halberds. Definitely a very close fight so far. Let's take another look at the percentage. 84 to 75. So so Sid and Crimson have definitely started to turn things in their favor. Ooh, Nerd halberds though actually routing.
General has thrown his life away.
But there goes the Lyndon general. So that's gonna. Oh man, that's gonna be close. I mean, the Elves of Lyndon, of course, do have a lot higher morale than most. Well, Elves in general have a lot higher morale than most other factions, just because of their low numbers. But they really do need that. But the lower tier units, like these Harlandon infantry, are probably going to rout, which is going to allow this huge blob of halberds and infantry to march forward and put even more stress upon the already breaking lines of Lyndon. However, over here we can take a look now at what's going on with the Blade Masters, see if they've finally been able to take out Umbar.
The enemy are badly
those
bloodied.
two warlords just proving so
half their
difficult to
men.
break down, and halberds still at 32 as well. Looks like most of the Castamers chosen have fallen. Belliger Archer is going to be no match for the Mithlond Swordmasters. Ooh, so it looks like Sin may end up losing the last of his army there, but that's probably going to end up being fine because of just how much damage he has been able to do, and just because of the fact that he was able to keep those two units, those two very important units of Lyndon back there. Ooh, another rout here though. The loss of the General Khand also has pretty low morale. You can see all of these units here, despite being very high in numbers, are actually shaken. So as long as Lyndon keeps rear charging with his own infantry units and constantly firing into the blobs with his body piercing units, he may still be able to win this incredibly. Yes, it looks like the body piercing arrows are going to be targeted right here. A very nice move here because he's going to really suffer no friendly fire. Whereas here he probably would suffer a pretty decent amount of friendly fire. Nomadic Marauders still running around, kind of trying to get into a better position to fire. Ooh, looks like the Swordmasters have pretty much taken out the last of Umbar. The two Warlords of Umbar, going to try to get one last charge off on these Mithlond Swordmasters, looks like. Only one has a lance. No, they both have lances. Ooh. so we're able to take out a few of them. But now that these sword masters have taken out Umbar, these sword masters will be able to come back over here and continue to flank around the Khandish forces, who are going to not like that at all. You can see even a minor flank here from the Noldoran Blade Masters has just routed pretty much everything that had remained of Crimson's army here. We can see some units returning. It's just proving that losing a general is definitely very, very unfortunate. You have to be very careful with your general.
Behold how our cowardly foe runs. It's time to press.
Yeah, just a huge portion of forces here, but he might want to continuously target them because there's with his Wardens of Elastirion, because they're still pretty blobbed up. And yes, some are already returning, so he definitely needs to target those units there because they are in fact returning to the fight. Ooh, yeah, 136 halberds, 74 footmen. It looks like the halberds are going to stand their ground. The footmen might. Looks like the footmen are going to retreat. Harlandon infantry going to charge headlong into these halberds. Wardens of Elastirion, though, they need to get out of there quickly because these Wardens of Elastirion may be the deciding factor in this battle. He's going to try to protect them with some Harlandon infantry. Well, Nerd halberds may actually rout, especially if there's even a couple volleys of arrows. Noldoran guards still at 22. Ooh, footmen returning to the battle though. And Noldoran Blade Masters again going to be a very, very important unit this late in the game. And they're still pretty healthy as well, but they're going to have to try to flank around this unit of halberds if they want to break them. And the two units right here of sword masters coming over here as well. Looks like there's still 5 crossbows. Ooh. Wardens of Elastirion need to maybe fire at this unit here, or just try to fire at these halberds who are actually wavering. Oh yes, the Blade Masters routing the halberds once again.
Like this, we will smash the enemy.
And over here, the Noldoran Guard and standard Mithlon sword masters going to deal with the last of these melee footmen. So it looks like this battle is pretty much coming to a close here. An incredibly, incredibly close fight. I definitely think this was one. This was a very fun battle to commentate. And a big thank you to Leicester for sending it to me. And yes, it looks like that is going to pretty much be the end of the evil men.
Victory is ours, but only by a sword's edge.
By a sword's edge indeed. That was an insanely, insanely close battle. These Wardens of Harlandon really coming in key there. Odysseus actually having 500 more kills than Leicester, surprisingly. Sin of the Dark Cloud having the most kills for his team, but Crimson was not too far behind. Both had a lot of men on the field, of course. Noldoran Horse Lords, 162 kills. One unit of the Wardens didn't do too great, but the other one did pretty good. The Noldoran Blade Masters, while they only got 63 kills, I think overall their impact on the battle was definitely very, very big, just because of their constant flanking and just the fact that they were able to rout so many units. Sword Masters did pretty good. Pikemen actually doing surprisingly well, even though they were targeted by the archers pretty quickly. Both units of Harlandon infantry doing pretty good. The skill really proving, the skill of those units really proving good against the low skill of the Nerd units like that. Wardens of Elastirion getting 515 kills, and pretty unsurprising considering Rangers are very, very good. Harlandon Guard and Forlandon Archers didn't do bad either. So again, a very close battle. Big thank you to Leicester for sending it to me. If you guys did enjoy it, please comment, like, and subscribe. If you did not, just tell me what I did wrong, and I'll be sure to fix it for the next video. So farewell wherever you fare, till your eyes receive you at your journey's end.